We can use our mind to be our best friend instead of our worst enemy. We're often in fight or flight mode, not realizing it. And the stress is releasing those stress hormones into our bodies, not helping our internal state of being at all. Your child is directly impacted by your state of being as well. I think we should be encouraging kids to be in tune with their bodies, to listen to their bodies, to understand their bodies.
Thanks for tuning into the Vibrant Soul Society, the conversations. Today we have a very beautiful, vibrant soul here with us today, Ashley Holmes. Welcome, Ashley. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Who is Ashley?
I am a Canadian who has embraced a holistic health and wellness business from my own experience of struggling with infertility. I support women who are struggling to conceive, to connect mind, body, and spirit, and come back into balance and alignment to create a fertile foundation with it. I think it's important to have that support in those low times.
What got you started in this? Where were you in your human experience before you jumped into your coaching?
Over a decade ago, I did struggle to conceive, and I was abundantly blessed with twins after a span of time, but it wasn't a path I wanted to go down again. And it wasn't something I wanted to put myself through mentally, emotionally, financially. And I didn't think I could have any more children. And I walked away from that experience without any answers from the doctors with unexplained infertility. I landed on my yoga mat and embodied ancient wisdom and healing practices that allowed me to conceive naturally and support people with modalities that have zero side effects and only positive benefits.
You found the yoga mat and that shifted your life, that yogic wisdom.
Yes, finding yogic wisdom led into meditation training and learning about the sister science of yoga, which is Ayurveda, and discovering Reiki and all of these things that we can tap into to affect our internal state of being that perhaps we haven't tried or experienced yet.
Right. What was life like before yoga?
Life before yoga was me not realizing that I had been stuck in fight or flight mode for decades. And discovering yoga was the first glimpse of peace, relaxation that I actually felt. It led me to dive deeper and to begin to understand that I'm not just this physical body. It led me down the path that I was meant to go down. The teacher arrived when the student was ready, and it was very awakening for me to realize that there was a different way of life, that I didn't have to struggle, that I didn't have to suffer endlessly, and that I could choose a more conscious path forward.
And that's really important because a lot of people are struggling with the fight or flight response, and they're not even sure that they're trapped in that reactive way of being. What do you say to people on someone that's really like in this reactive state? Life is very difficult, challenging. How do they step into that? Oh, there's a new way forward.
I think it is realizing that that is not sustainable to stay in that state for an extended period of time. We can withstand brief periods of that, but most of us are really living in this heightened state of awareness and we're not ever coming out of it. When it's infertility, it's like, oh, it'll be the next month or whatever it is that we're facing or work. I think it's important to pause. That awareness is really the first step to be self reflective and notice that you're on this hamster wheel and that you can hop off. We need to find more balance, more equilibrium, more harmony in our day to day lives and to really give ourselves that because we are human beings, not human doings. Most of us are just on this path of endless doing.
And it's also a very stressful lifestyle when you're constantly that heightened awareness that you're constantly stressed, you're probably overwhelmed with life. So having that pause to slow down makes a huge difference. But some will say, but I have all these things to do. How do I find the time? So what do you say to that?
I would say that all of the practices that I embody and that I offer to my clients and that they learn to embody, they don't take time, they give you time, because the mental clarity that comes from giving these gifts to yourself is absolutely worth it. And it will just set you up energetically and vibrationally and raise your frequency so that you're not operating in this day in and day out.
That's the thing that people may not really understand what it means to raise your frequency. They don't even know themselves as an energetic body. They're still in this stressed out, overwhelmed, reactive state of being. But it's really important to just take that pause to slow down, to take that time for yourself, to give yourself the gift of time. So before you get people into this state of being, what's some of the first things that you do to get them to pause, to slow down, to reconnect with who they really are?
I think the first step is to embody some meditation, some yoga practices, and to just be open to receive all that is available to you, because I think we unconsciously do not realize the state within we are operating from. And when we become consciously aware of, wait a minute, I feel like myself when I start my day with meditation or I journal at the end of the day and relieve all of these thoughts in my mind so that I'm not going to bed with them and waking up with them, and the same things are repeating over and over again. We can use our mind to be our best friend instead of our worst enemy. And it really is just being aware that we can choose our thoughts, but I'm also not my thoughts, and just having this wider perspective of being a witness to your thoughts and not putting the feelings and the emotions and the energetic charge behind them that makes us so reactive and keeps triggering us in the same way, because those are all areas that are still needing addressing and that are still needing healing.
That's what I found through meditation. It gives you that space of separation that you don't have right now because the mind's always on that hamster wheel. And for me, meditation helped me step off that hamster wheel and into embodying myself. So, how do you begin people with meditation? Some people think it's very difficult, very complex. How do you really break it down into a simple practice for someone that is hesitant to try it?
I have a go to for anyone who doesn't believe they can meditate or stick to a meditation practice: Yoga Nidra, which is like yogic sleep. Even if you do fall asleep, your subconscious will still take what it needs from the practice and apply it to your being. And 20 minutes is equivalent to 4 hours of sleep. So if you are a stressed out entrepreneur, a new mom, working shift work, or you have PTSD, it is the perfect practice. You cannot do it wrong. You just have to allow yourself to listen and be guided through the meditation.
Oh, that's very interesting. I don't hear too many people talking about Yoga Nidra, but it's very an important practice. It's a good way to actually start that I never considered because it is working on that subconscious that we may not even be aware of. The people aren't familiar with a Yoga Nidra practice. Could you explain a little bit how that works for them?
First part is always to become aware of your body, to become a bit aware of your breath, and you are consciously relaxing all parts of your body and bringing attention and awareness to all parts and pieces of you. There's also the duality, because often we are only seeking pleasure, not seeking pain, but life is both. It's a safe way to experience all of life. And when you're in situations, not in meditation, you will not be so triggered or reactive. For example, you may imagine you might be at a doctor's office. And so immediately your mind is going to probably go to somewhere that perhaps wasn't a positive experience. But in this meditation, it is completely safe and it becomes a way for you to find more ease when you're sitting in the doctor's office and perhaps you're feeling a bit nervous or anxious. And so, really just allows you to have the whole wide array of physical, energetic, blissful experiences in a safe way that isn't triggering. And so it is just the best place to start, I feel. It's something I offer weekly and has been really helpful for me and my clients to just be able to find that great sense of deep relaxation and healing because that is happening inwardly as you are moving through the practice.
You start with the Yoga Nidra, then you move into another practice. Once they get familiar with Yoga Nidra, do you move into another type of meditation practice? Do you start introducing vinyasa practice or something kind of yoga movement?
The types of yoga that I offer are yin yoga, which is longer held poses. We can open the meridian lines in our body, similar to acupuncture. You're just applying acupressure versus having needles inserted. But it's a different way to work with your body, but it's also allowing the energy to move within your body. Yet you get to be the one in control. You get to be your own teacher. So it's quite empowering. You also learn to sit with discomfort in some poses, breathe into that and take that off of your mat. And for me, in the beginning, I didn't think that lying on bolsters or slowing down was going to do anything for me. That is really the type of yoga that transformed everything for me. Restorative yoga, where you are finding that deep rest and deep healing and giving yourself the time and space to just be. We're often in fight or flight mode, not realizing it. And the stress is releasing those stress hormones into our bodies, not helping our internal state of being at all. So, really finding these calming, yielding, slower practices and meditations, such as chakra balancing meditations, and working with your energetic body so that you are feeling balanced and aligned from that state. The whole world really starts to open up, and you have a lot more available to you that perhaps you didn't realize before.
I love that idea of yin yoga. It makes a huge difference in my life when I was recovering from multiple sclerosis. But yin yoga was perfect for me because my balance was terrible. So it was really good to let me get back in touch with my body. I really like the approach from Yoga Nidra and yin yoga. These aren't aggressive things that keep the mind busy, engaged. Like you said, it really helps you step it down to relax, to remember who you really are, because most of us don't even know. What do you see in that transformation from these individuals when they start going through this? I'm sure you see some pretty rapid changes once they take off that stress, the layers of stress. The body starts to make a difference.
Definitely. It really is a lot about getting out of our minds and into our bodies, right? Because we are playing out all sorts of scenarios in our minds. And it really is just a breath of fresh air to see them come to me often in dire straits. They've been through a lot by the time that they wish or are looking to try a holistic approach. And to just have that ease and peace and calm with and not be so stressed out, to not want to get off their mat when they're done their practice and they're in the comfort of their own home. That is their safe, secure space. And to know that they can tap into these meditations, to really just have this toolbox. And it's not only to help conceive, but these are things that they can use during their pregnancy as a new mom and continue onwards with life. It's not just a one and done thing. Often we just want the quick fix or the band aid approach, and those aren't sustainable or long lasting. This is really just offering you a lifestyle that is going to serve you in the long run so that you are happy and healthy and you have that to give to your child as well.
That's really good. So when we were saying new mom, it just triggered to me like a new mom is probably very stressed and overwhelmed. Like there's a whole new way of living now. So I'm sure these practices help them to slow down, keep the stress away, and they probably are better mothers as well. Would you say they become a better mother when they're more in tune with who they are?
Definitely. I feel like you can go from being consciously conceiving and a conscious parent by doing this program by taking these practices and embodying them, that was my lived experience with my twins. A stressed pregnancy, a stressed delivery, a stressed new mom, everything carried through. And then on the flip side, I conceived naturally. I was in the middle of my prana meditation. So I literally had this little Buddha baby in my belly, a natural birth, back at baby and me yoga 10 days later. It was night and day difference. I was a different person, even though I was deemed geriatric at the time. So it just shows what is truly possible for you. And so I think it's really important to be mindful of your state of mind and state of being through all of that, because your child is directly impacted by your state of being as well.
So what have you noticed in your twins with your practices now? Have you noticed a change in their behavior and how they're approaching life?
I think that I am definitely a better mother than before. I really give them the space and create grace to be who they are because they're boy girl twins. There is no comparison, there is no judgment. You be you and be proud of who you are. I want to put it on my wall. Life is not a competition. You don't need to compete with this person. You just need to love on them. Just honor yourself and do what is your inherent interest and creativity where you can really fill up your own cup and it doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And I think that's the greatest gift we can give to our kids is to let them be who they are instead of trying to fit them into a box.
It's very empowering for them so they can just be them without falling into peer pressure and other things they were approaching. Do you teach them how to meditate, how to slow down, to do yoga or anything like that?
Yes, I go into my kids' school and do yoga with their classes. I did it last year because I would hear things that were happening in the classroom. I felt like this is a gift that I can give to them. Often, these kids that are acting out and having behavior issues don't have a parent with these types of tools in their resource box at home and to move their body and to find some inner calm and inner stillness. And for doing yoga in the classroom, we are doing hatha yoga. We are moving, we are balancing. I'm not trying to get them to do yin and restorative practices because they need to release that energy.
That's interesting that you're able to bring that into schools because in the US, there's usually a lot of controversy around meditation, yoga, these types of practices. Are you finding any challenges or obstacles in bringing your teachings into your schools? You're in Canada, right?
I'm in Canada. There has been no issue. And I don't know why there should be any issue because I think we should be encouraging kids to be in tune with their bodies, to listen to their bodies, to understand their bodies. That seems to be have been missed in my generation and still being missed in the generations that are being brought up. We really need to instill that in our children so they understand themselves and their bodies. It can be done. Last year, my twins were in grade 5 and my little one was in kindergarten. Obviously, what I do with those different ages is different, but you can always adjust things. And if you're breathing, you can always receive benefit from it, even if you're just connecting with your breath in that moment. Taking a conscious breath is a mini meditation all in and of itself.
Right. And it's good to point out that meditation doesn't have to be 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. It could just be consciously breathing, consciously being aware of this moment, just to slow it down. So I think it's really beautiful you're bringing this to your children, the students in your area. It's really good because it's a place of empowerment. And I wish I had those things in school because all I knew was the school pressures, the school stress, and life is hard. And we need these tools in schools. And hopefully it is growing out there. I really don't know in the US what it's doing here. I know the controversy, if I remember it right, was some of the Christians thought it was a Hindu practice, and they had objections to that.
I really make my practice my own. It's for me. And I think we should all be able to develop a practice that is unique to us. You can go as deep and take it as far as you like. And I obviously don't take chanting and things that I've learned from my mentors into the schools because I am not sure how that will be received, but I do take other aspects of it as well. But it's also knowing that there is more to yoga than the asanas, than the poses. It is not just about the poses at all. And that is often what Western culture has really brought to the forefront.
I think you made a good point. You probably had an objection to the chanting or some of the other practices that may be counter to their beliefs. I think that was an important point to make there. You were talking before we were talking on this podcast that you have an interesting event coming up. You want to talk about that a little bit?
So, Well Woman Impact Summit, that is at the end of September. I'm speaking on mindset because that's where my gifts lie and how I feel like I can best serve and help people to really get out of their overthinking mind and get back into their bodies, whether that's helping with business or their health and wellness. I was drawn to it because I have always walked my own path and not followed what may be normal. I have always chosen if everyone's doing something, I'm going to try something else. That is where my best experiences have landed and how I really come to know myself is to not always stay in my comfort zone and to see what else is out there, what else is possible.
I think that's an important point that I tell people let go of normal because you try to find the normal way, the normal. When I stepped outside the normal path and into my own way through meditation, yoga, mindfulness, all my diseases went away because I followed my way. My doctors cannot explain me because I didn't follow the normal path. I love that you're helping people find their path outside the norms of society. You're sharing your light that there's better ways to do this, that we don't have to struggle. We don't have to be stressed out. And it's really important what you're doing with the holistic fertility. If somebody left away from here today, what is the one nugget that you want to leave with them?
I would love to leave the nugget of wisdom that you are exactly where you're meant to be, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes. And there's resistance. I love the quote, no mud, no lotus, because sometimes we have to experience dark night of the soul before we are open to look at other options or what else is available for us. When you think you've exhausted all options, maybe you've just begun. I invite people to look inward instead of outward and to shift that locus of control from external to what can I do for myself so that I feel balanced and aligned in mind, body, and spirit, because that is definitely a different way and state of being.
When people talk about the dark night of the soul, they see the soul as this bright source of light, and the darkness is
Mhm.
really the dark night of the mind. We are the light. It's just any darkness. It's the mind chatter, the stories that we tell ourselves, the beliefs.
I think that we as a collective need to embrace all parts of ourselves, right? Often we only want to embrace the light and the love, which is great, but we also have that darkness and those other traits within us as well to know that all is welcome and that I think when we can fully embrace authentically who we are and look at all pieces and parts of ourselves, then we return to our wholeness and remember our wholeness. Often we think those parts of ourselves are unworthy or not able to be there with us. And I think it's important to remember that all of us have those pieces and parts of us, and you're not alone on this journey. I think oftentimes that also keeps us stuck thinking that we're all alone and no one understands me and no one can help me through this. And I think that's a dark place to be, and that there are people out there. You just need to find your people and to know it's not a weakness to ask for support.
Yeah, I tell people that you want to incorporate all of you because you want to let go of all judgment, all criticism. You just want to accept who you are as you are. Then you can start being free. You can start living your
Yes,
life.
definitely.
All right, Ashley, thank you for being with us today. I'll put all your contact information below. I think it's very important to be mindful and to live that life that you wish to live. Thank you again for joining the conversation today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.